heard the recent story about that governor's dog that she shot her dog or something? Did you hear
Yes,
about
my
that?
boyfriend was telling me about that.
No.
You haven't heard about this?
No.
Okay. Well,
Yes. Give
it to
it's a
me.
big reason.
So
It's a big deal for two reasons. Oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, you go ahead. I actually
Do
want
you
to
know
hear about
where
it.
is she? She's a governor or a senator or something like that.
I don't
right?
remember.
Kristi Noem or something like that, I think is her name. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a big deal for two reasons. One, it's kind of a little bit of a wild story, right? That is it's pretty controversial. But then two, she is the person that's in the running to be Trump's potential VP candidate,
Oh, God.
right? so obviously that gives just a little bit more ammunition and fuel
so
to the fire.
she
with things.
couldn't she figured her dog was untrainable.
So
she shot it.
here's my understanding of what happened, right?
Yeah, okay.
So because in all of this, keep in mind, I didn't read, this is from a book she just wrote that came out that's like a memoir or whatever, like it's her life story.
Oh, great.
And it was a story that she shared in the book.
Okay.
Right? I did not read it, right? So I don't know firsthand what she said in it, but I tried to read a handful of different articles to kind of get a feel for what happened. So I could kind of try to get a little bit of an unbiased take on things.
Yeah.
And here's what I understood. She had this dog Cricket that was a wire hair pointer, I think. It was either a GSP or a wire-haired pointer. I'm pretty
Some
sure.
hunting,
right? It was a hunting
Yeah.
dog. It was
Hunting
a bird
dog.
dog, right?
Okay.
She grew up in South Carolina, right, or South Dakota, I think. South Dakota or South Carolina, whatever. It was in the boonies.
Okay.
Right.
Either way.
Yeah.
And big hunting community. They had bird dogs, right? And she had this dog Cricket that was basically, she just described and she was 20 years old at the time, right?
Okay.
She hated this dog. It was so difficult. It was a pain in the ass, right?
Okay.
And they were a hunting family, right? So this dog was to be a bird dog, right?
Okay.
So she took the dog out on a hunt.
Yeah.
The dog did horrendously on the hunt. At this point, the dog's a year and a half or something like that. Out on a hunt. Dog does terrible, just frolicking in the fields, chasing away all the birds, just ruining their hunt, this, that.
Yeah.
On the way home, they stop by a neighbor's house to talk, and the dog, she loses control of the dog. The dog jumps into their chicken coop and slaughters all of this neighbor's chickens. Right?
Jesus.
And then when she went to go grab the dog, I guess the dog turned and tried to redirect on her and stuff. So she took the dog home. She said, obviously, this dog can't be a hunting dog. This dog, in her opinion, was dangerous. So she shot the dog. Right?
Okay.
So the controversy is a couple of different things. The controversy is, one, a lot of people are saying, okay, probably if we were to look back on things, probably this was a fine dog that was doing normal dog things that probably just wasn't a good candidate to be a hunting dog.
Yeah.
Does the dog deserve to die for that? Probably not.
No.
At least to today's standards, probably
But
not.
things were a little different.
Right?
They thought about that. Yeah.
The other controversy is that why would you shoot shooting a dog is such a grisly, terrible thing that you can do, right? My take on things, right? Yeah, it's hard to look at because I think this literally happened over 20 years ago, right? So if we look at over 20 years ago, I was fucking 9 years old, right? I didn't know anything about dogs. I didn't grow up in fucking South Dakota where you only get a dog to be a fucking hunting dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not pets. They're working tools then at that point.
Yeah, they're a tool, they're property. You invest in them and you're it's a dud. And
I don't
they thought
even
differently.
I don't even have the reference of how dogs were looked at 20 years ago. You know what I mean? I have what my parents kind of taught me, but it was just such a different world than anything we've lived, right?
Yeah.
So it's tough because I don't know, was rehoming an option at that point? Did they have family dogs or did they just have hunting dogs, right? I could see both sides of it, and then from the shooting the dog standpoint, what's different, shooting a dog versus taking a dog into a vet to get behaviorally euthanized, right? We see people do that all the time, right? And it's looked at as something different because it's the humane way to do it, but it's I would assume 20 years ago, living in South Dakota on a fucking farm, that's kind of what people did when their dogs got older and were going to die. You know what I mean?
I
don't know.
Financially as well, different.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the entire story. I don't understand why she thought that was a good idea to like write that in her book, because that obviously is something that you'd kind of get a
interesting-
little bit torn up over.
Yeah.
But like, I think as far as the situation itself, let's say she never wrote about it and it just happened, I would assume probably back then in South Dakota, I think it was South Dakota, in South Dakota, that was a pretty normal thing to do, is my guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, considering her audience, assuming she was like, yeah, not worried about writing that in because they're,
Yeah.
to them, guns and all of this. But it obviously it's in the book, so it's going to get out to absolutely everyone. Mm-hmm. And it did.
Sure did.
It is interesting.
It's all people are talking about right now,
to
obviously.
think about both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just like it's a different world now. Like, yeah, if that happened right now in Cleveland, Ohio, people would be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, people would be freaking out about it, obviously. But at the same time, I've also shared stories about clients that I've had that have put their dogs down over the dumbest, most minor things before. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So really, at that point, in my opinion, the only difference is the fact that the dog was shot versus injected with a deadly liquid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
I
guess
give us your hot take,
with
Josh.
liquid death.
I can't.
I'm not advertising for them.
Hot take. I mean,
give us your hot take.
I mean, growing up, I've seen plenty of dogs die on farms. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, that's the hot take.
In what?
I mean, you really did grow up in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Right?
My uncles are dairy farmers, chicken farmers. I've seen plenty of dogs get in the chicken coops and get shot up.
Yeah. And the other thing too is so the e-collar bans and stuff that are going on in England, right?
Yes.
Or they're trying to do in England.
Yeah.
One of the biggest pushes back from English trainers, what they're really trying to lean into is the fact that if dogs go onto farmers' properties, they just get shot.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what farmers do out there.
Are you okay with the muscle stimulation? Or do you prefer they get shot?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I say all of that just to say, like, I'm not at all saying it's like we should be going out and shooting dogs instead of like taking them to the vet to have it done in a different way. But like, I'm just kind of saying I think it's a little bit more normal than people are thinking, and people are looking at it way too much like that situation happened in the middle of downtown Manhattan or something. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know her situation, obviously, but farm dogs are not really. There's like family dog, and then there's the farm dog.
Yeah.
You know, and like once farm dog was getting a little too old, you know, we all watched Old Yeller. Like,
I was going to say it, but I already teared up earlier. Don't make me do it again.
Yeah. So like,
Jesus Christ.
Granted.
And that's when people say you're going to Old Yeller him.
Yeah. Like,
I've never heard it be used as what is that? Is that a noun or is that a verb or an adjective?
Are you gonna Old Yeller him?
Yeah. Oh my God.
But I mean, that's when I'm like 4 or 5 years, 6, 7 years old. You know, like growing up that way. But I mean, even out where like my mom and stuff, it's like the closest vet is like 40 minutes away. It's like the vet comes and makes house calls.
Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of like area that Southern Indiana is still. It's just very sparse of how you take care of your pets. Like, you know, we never did that. We like when the dogs were getting older, we would take them and get them put down or whatever, you know. But as far as like if it's like a working dog back in the day, I mean, or probably still now, just sorry everybody that doesn't want to think about it that way. But I mean,
that's a reality.
That's just the reality, you know?
Yeah. I think that's why, you know, to me, like when I started seeing it go crazy and I started reading about it, I think I was just a little bit surprised that people didn't realize that just kind of was a normal thing.
Yeah.
Probably is, you know? And again, that's not me here saying like, oh, it's good or bad or anything like that. I'm just saying I think it's kind of normal.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not normal in 90% of humanities. Like of the United States.
In the way that 90% of people view dog ownership now. It's absolutely not.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, fur babies now.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not, I mean, they've been companions throughout history, but it's never been like, oh, you're my son.
Yeah.
Until like
Like we're getting
Dog
newborn pictures
mom.
taken of the dogs.
Yeah, just like
Swaddled.
yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.